Hello everybody and welcome back to the Smile tutorial. Today we are going to take a quick look at PLMs. And the first thing I want to mention about PLMs is any PLM can be turned into any other PLM safely. So you're alright with that. Just right click on the PLM, hit type, and you could change it to whatever else is in this list. It won't hurt it. Don't use these arrows. You're bad because I already explained why you shouldn't use those. So anyway, there's quite a few things with PLMs that we can do, and we'll be discussing quite a bit of those. First off, I've already set up a little bit in here. I've put 2 extra doors in, both gray doors, and just to show this off, I have them set up. So, just to explain gray doors, because they're more in-depth than any of the other doors. With gray doors, you have a lot of different options you can choose from. So, based on the high numbers right up here, the high bit of the door, it will open on certain criteria. So, 0-0 is the main boss for that sub-map is dead. Then you have the mini-boss, or the chorizo. Now, all 3 of those bosses, they all set a bit once they're defeated, and the door reads that bit, and so once that's set, then they open up. Every submap has these bits, even if they don't have a main boss or a chorizo in them, they still have the bits. So if you're knowledgeable with stuff, setting some stuff up, you can use that in every submap. What I have the 2 doors set up for is OC, which is enemies dead matches enemies needed. What that means is that in this room, these doors will not open until I only have it set for 1 enemy. So once this pumpkin's destroyed, then the doors will open up. So that's what that is. So if you want to have it so that you have to defeat a certain number of enemies, you use OC. 10 is just always closed. It's like if you have exit only, you can put that in. And these other 2 I have never used, so I am unfamiliar with them. There's also the bomb chorizo door, which you can do. That's what you'd use for the bomb chorizo door, basically. Let's go with that. Now, something else is the low. See down here, it's the index of the door. Now what the index is the game has a list. And in this list, it starts at 0-0 and just keeps going up and up and up. So I have it, I just put them both in at 4C right now. But like I haven't touched this door, this one was at 3F. What this is it's telling the game, once you open this door, it reads that this low value, it says 3F, this door was opened. So once it reads that, that door never returns. That's knocked off the list. Unless you have the eye set to 80. If you have this set to 80, it will always come back, which on doors and stuff, you really don't need to do that. So, we have first off, just to show this off a little bit, what I've got set up here. Get my cursor out of the way. So we've got closed door, closed door. Now kill that guy. Now the door's open. Now I have them sharing the same index for this reason. If I leave the room here and then go back in, I did not open the door on the other side. However, there's no door cap because they shared the same index. The game, one was open, so it considered all doors with that index open. Now what you could do with this is what the heck, Mockingbird Station, if you're familiar with that, he had doors set up in the middle of nowhere. You would have to go find them, then open those up, and then they would open up a gray door cap. And so he just had those listed at 10, always closed. They would not open for anything until you've destroyed this other door cap that shared the same index. So you can use them as kind of a locking system like that. But in this instance, it's nice when you have it like this, because if you have it so that you have to destroy 50 respawn enemies or something like that, and they leave the room through one side but don't open the other, if they have to pass through that room backwards in the future, they'll have to re-defeat those 50 enemies to open the other side. So by having them share the same index, that stops that from happening. For instance, let's just put this in here just to show this off. So enemies defeated, player goes on their merry way, then eventually they have to come back through. It's like, now the door is not open because they have different indexes. So now they have to re-defeat all those 50 or so enemies. Then they'll open back up. So that's one reason why I suggest having the doors in rooms like this set up so that they share the same index. That way, once they've done it, they've opened one door, they're good. Even if they forget to open the other door, you've got it set up so you're not punishing them for not going backwards to open another door before going back again to go forward. Alright, so that's pretty much the basics of the gray doors. Should mention, show off. In the PLM you have the doors for all 4 directions. Don't use the tiles in the tile sheet, these won't do what you're wanting them to do. So you'll have to use the PLM for the special door caps. And all of them have all 4 directions, so you'll have to have enough PLMs to cover all the doors you want, and so on and so forth. Now, doors like the super missile and the missile doors are slightly different. Whereas, see, power bomb, you don't have anything, it's just the index. That's basically all you can do with them. However, super missile and missile doors are different because you have this option that's starting to appear right in here. That's hits to open, and this is pretty self-explanatory. That means it's going to be 1 super missile to open the door. You can change it to whatever. If we want 10 super missiles, which in hex is A, you would put in that save definition, and now it takes 10 super missiles to open the door. Now if you do this, you'll have to do it for all of them, because these all go to different locations, all these door caps. They don't share the same pointer for that. So a door on the right now takes 10 supers. Super missile door on the left still only takes 1. So you'll have to keep that in mind. If you're changing any of the doors around with either the super or the missile doors, you'll have to do it for all 4 directions in order for it to match properly. But that is the basics of the doors. Pretty simple stuff. And just keep in mind to have a good indexing system. I have a notepad for items, I have a notepad for door caps. That way I can list off that I've used through index E8 or whatever. So then anything after that is free to use, so I could just grab the next one list, then I write in the notepad that that's used, so I mark it off, and that's how I go about keeping track of that way. I don't have any disappearing door caps, because if you're testing your hack and you find you've got some door caps that are missing, it's probably because they're sharing an index with another door cap that you've opened already. That is the most likely cause. So that is it for the doors. Next up we'll look at items. Alright, now I've gone ahead and set up a few items here just to demonstrate some things. Okay, so first off we have just your regular item PLM. It's just your regular standard item out in the open. There are two others. The other one obviously is the item in a Chozo orb. And then there is this one with that sort of chopped off shot block. That is item hidden in scenery, so you could place it hidden in the ceiling, or in this case I just leave it right there for now, because something you can do with these three different types is like the doors, the missiles and super missile doors, where all of them have different spots or different locations for how many hits they take. These items all have separate locations for how many they actually give out. So for instance, if I go in here and jump up here, notice I have 230 missiles right now, which is normal. So I grab this, 235. Again, normal, got 5 missiles. But I've changed the other two around. That one only gave me 2 missiles. Both missile packs, but because they're separate, 2 different PLMs, I can give them separate values to give the player. And with this one, it gives the player 10 missiles. So you can do that with, it's quite simple, right here, under value, says, you know, you've got 5, so hey, makes sense. That's what it normally is. So when we go down to the missile here, I've changed it to give out only 2. And obviously with the scenery, and I did 10 just to show this off, because these values are all in hexadecimal. So to give out 10, you just put A. So that equals 10 and base 10. So once you make the change to whatever you want, you just simply click Save Definition. Okay, that's it. Again, if you want them all to be the same thing, to give the same amount, you have to, and you change it, say you want them all to give out 3 missiles or whatever, or 10 per pack, you have to change all 3 and then save definition. So you have to keep that in mind. You can also do that for energy tanks, obviously, and again in hexadecimal. That's 100 and base 10, so if you want to half it, you put 32. If you want to do 3 or more energy tanks, I believe 3 is 12C. I think that is the value for 300. But you can always check with a calculator. You can do that with power bombs as well, and with super missiles. So those 4 items, you can change the values around to do whatever, so that's pretty neat. And they can all, again, be separate. So let me just put that back. So yeah, the items are very simple to do like that. One thing to note is if I had like a bunch of items just in the ceiling where the player can't reach them. Say I put like screw attack, wave beam, gravity suit, area suit, grapple beam, space jump. You will actually get too many graphics in the game and it won't show all those different PLMs. It will either show them all as one or 2 different types of PLMs instead of all the different types. So keep that in mind. You probably won't come across that because that's a bit silly, but just in case, you're aware of that. So that is basically it for the item parts. Because, like I said, even with the beams and such, it is the same thing. They have 3 different PLMs. They are separate. So, but that's less useful because what good does stacking the same suit do? We've already collected it, so it's like in reverse, it had multiple various suits. That was more for some interesting things with shine sparking, not that they actually did anything. So something else we're going to discuss now is actually with combining items. Say for instance, we want to combine Morph Ball with bombs and high jump. Well, thankfully, you can do that without much difficulty. Or morph balls, bombs, high jumping, and spring ball even. You can do that without much difficulty by simply taking this value here. So we know morph is 04. So if we find spring ball, it's just a value of 2. So combined they would be 6. High jump, so it's 106. And nice jump. So 306 if you combined all of them. You would put in that value in here. You would save that, and then you would use this PLM to give the player all those items. Now you can't do that with just all the items. You can't do, say, gravity suit and plasma beam together. I have a handy little notepad here, thanks to person 701, who got this together. See, this is the split of what you can combine with each other. So down here you can combine with each other, except for maybe charge. I'm still not exactly sure about this one. But you can combine all the beams together. And you can combine all these together. So you just combine the values. I want to minimize that. But you can combine all those values together. Stick them into X-ray scope or whatever. Just stick that value in there, save it. And then when they collect this particular PLM, they'll get all those items you have combined together. So if you want spring ball and high jump together, just combine those values together, put it on like the high jump thing, and you're good to go. That's all there is to that. So next, we're going to take a look at the other PLMs and figure out what they are, what they can do. Alright, I went ahead and set up a little bit of stuff up with gates here, because we are going to look at these here next. Now, gates are made up of two parts. There is the head and then the actual gate itself. I guess the switch and the gate itself. Now, these are generally pretty simple. The gate is simply, that says here, a high of 80 and the low is 0. And then the switch is a high of 0. And then the low makes it what type of gate it is. Now, if you have the switch on the right, it'll still appear like this with the switch on the left. Don't worry, just place it like that. It will be up on the right side. So that is how it is. Now, something I wanted to point out with the gates, we'll see if this works or not. Get rid of that thing first. And of course it works. You guys set up over here. Nope, of course that one works too. Well, this is not quite showing off what I wanted to show. But there is an issue sometimes with these gates you'll come across where if you shoot the gate and it just does not seem to open, or will open and then it won't close, and it's really annoying in hacks and such when it happens. I've discovered the way to best get rid of that is to make sure your PLMs are in order. Now you can check that by hovering your cursor over the PLM. So I know this gate piece is the 4th PLM, or I guess technically the 5th in the room. And I have this one as the 1st one. I did that because I was hoping it would show it off, where I would shoot this and it wouldn't open, but of course it works since I'm trying to actually show it off. So to combat that, what I find works most consistently is if you grab two PLMs that are right next to each other. So in this case 08 and 09, and I always have the one in front be the switch. I don't know if that matters so much, but having them in order like that seems to get rid of the issue where the gates don't open sometimes when you shoot them. So if you have that issue, check your PLMs. That might be what's going on. Switch some around or whatever so that they're in order, then test it out and see if that works. And something I came across while setting this up. Let me change this to a blue gate and see if this will work. Okay, yeah. It looks a little weird. Obviously there's no trigger there. And of course it doesn't show up over here. Before it had other door cap PLM pieces and the wall there. The reason being was there was too much graphical data with the PLMs. I also had the other missiles, which I got rid of. I made them these Aero PLMs. So that might be what the issue is. But you can see that one wasn't showing up. There was, with the different doors and then the gates, and the two different switches, there was too much data there, so it didn't show up. So if you have that issue, that's most likely why. You can change whatever PLMs to whatever you want, but there will be limitations like that, where if you try and do too many things in one room, you're going to have graphical errors and other glitches like that. So keep that in mind. And next up, we're going to look at some of the other PLMs on the list. Okay, so now we've got the two refill stations, both the energy and the missile refill station. These are very, very simple to set up. Basically, they're both high 80, low 0. Basically your usual PLM stuff. And they are the two tiles that it looks like they take up that space, so you don't have to place any of the tiles from here down, because these will fill it up. So if you just have the one station, you could, for instance, just get rid of that. And now you just have the one station, and that's all there you'll see in there. So that was the wrong button. There we go. So that's all they are. Obviously it won't work without taking some damage, but that's all there are to both of these. Lovely missile refill hanging up there. But that is all that is to these refill stations. So let's take a look at some others. Alright, now we're going to look at a couple of different things. We have the crumbling bomb Torizo statue, and then we're actually going to show off the Ghidorah. Now the statue is easy. You can use either 80 or 0. 80 will make it keep coming back. And then the Ghidorah, again, the low is just the index, and then the high for all three pieces is 0, 0. So since we got those in, and then it just breaks and sort of fades away. And that's how the Ghidorah does. Works just like that. You can change, if you know some locations and offsets, you could change what item you grab that makes this bust out. Same with Bomb Torizo. So if you want to do that, you can. Something else to show off real quick is, let me just find where it is here. Something you might be using is the elevator platform, which again is the same BTS value. It's high of 80, low of 0. It's a very, very popular PLM. And so that's how you do the elevator platform. Nothing to that, really. Now, what's left on here is the map station. This works just like the other refill stations. However, it does use tiles from the tile sets that the map station is used in. So if you want that in a different tile set, you have to port those tiles over and have them in the right spot. Let me see what else we have on here. I've already been over save stations. This PLM, it's what obviously causes the lava to wait until you collect speed booster, and then it rises in that one room. Again, with this, you can change, if you know some offsets, you can change what item triggers that. So you can do some fancy stuff with that one. And the only other things I'm going to show off for now are these wonderful Dragon PLMs. Now these are quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, so what these do, now you have the 4 high and lows in the game. That's just basically like what corner or one of the 4 spots they were in. But what these do in other tile sets is what is interesting. Let me see if that shows up with this tile set. Okay. Wrong one. Where is it? Let's try this one. This might be what I was looking for. Yes, indeed. So this is the actual electrical damaging part to it that you can grapple onto that kills Dragon. So you can have fun with this. Now, if you notice, here's what's fun about this. If these tiles here are moving, it's actually pulling those tiles from the tile sheet. So it's pulling them from somewhere in here, in this area. If you find out what the exact location is, you can change those tiles to whatever you want, and then this would animate between those tiles. So I'll probably put up a clip of something I have done with that myself, because that's quite interesting and you can do some interesting stuff. So I believe there's 4 animations, so 8 tiles in total, because he uses 2 tiles per animation, because obviously it's too high. So you can put some interesting things. You could have, for instance, if you wanted, just it looked like regular grapple blocks and then have it animate to flashy, or the crumble grapple block. You can play around with that and get some interesting things. But I think that will cover just about everything with PLMs, just the basics, and maybe some other stuff with them. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you, and we shall see you in the next tutorial.